at that time, and so they could start seeing the page, and they could start downloading, and they could start hitting play, but it wouldn't connect, right? So
Right.
our plan was initially when that kind of synchronize everything, and but yeah, there was a lot of moments at that time where I was just like about to have a heart attack. It's like, oh my gosh, this is gonna happen. What's going on? Server's coming up. What's taking so long? And then luckily, our trailer came out near the ending, the latter half of the show. So we lucked out there. And then we basically got the servers up and running like 15 minutes before the trailer came out. So it was just like, oh my God. And we're working with the awesome folks over at Epic Game Store too, right? And they said this is like the tightest ever on any launch that they've ever had before, which is not a good thing, It was like, we're glad, without their support, it wouldn't have been possible. But they were just like, yeah, that was pretty, by the skin of your teeth, getting that all out there.
So how much advance notice did you guys end up having for the Steam release? Did you know like a week ahead of time, or was it days?
Well, yeah, I can't really say, but there's talks and stuff. But for us personally, it was just like we had that kind of anxiety, and we didn't know if it's gonna like there wasn't any like, oh, okay, this is for sure kind of thing until it happened. We felt reassured pretty much like the day before it happened, like, oh, it's gonna actually happen. But for us, it was something that kind of opportunity is there, even if it doesn't happen, for us to not do our part on our side, and if we missed it, if it didn't happen, then it would have sucked if it was on our side, right? So luckily, everything worked out, but there was a lot of anxiety. And I guess that's the thing, is I'm still kind of recovering from that. It's like, oh my God, I'm just not. First of all, I'm not cut out for kind of like management stuff. Yeah,
you just want to go code, man.
Yeah, I just want to go back to do it. So yeah, back to development one of these days. So
yeah. So how do you feel about how the season's gone so far? Do you feel like it's gone well since you guys had your launch? Like 10 a.m. this morning when I was live, there were 41,000 people in game, according to the player stats and all. So like, is this meeting your expectations? Is it like as good as you hoped it would be? Is it better?
Well, so our expectations have been fluctuating a lot. Like, before it's like you have like all sorts of thoughts, right? It's like, oh, okay, we're working on getting back onto mainstream platforms. What does that mean? And then at the same time, there's a lot of different moving parts that we're working on. They're not all exactly the way we wanted it, because this is kind of the first time also that we had like these super set deadlines, because we're working with partners like the Summer Game Fest, right? That show is going to go on regardless. We made this agreement; it's going to happen at that time. It does,
right?
If we screw up, or we those trailers, the teasers, that was the first time we had them professionally made. So shout out to the guys at Summoner LA. Those guys are awesome. It was like they made those trailers on like the super short notice, right? And it was like, but we had to give them like, oh, okay, on the trailer it says like, oh, it's coming out now, right, on Epic and Steam, right? And so those things have to be put in emergency. Like we're trying to figure, it's like free to play, but we used up all our like emergency get out of jail free cards, making these kind of last minute decisions. And so it was like, oh, okay, it's we always try to, if we have these dates or we have these milestones we want to we let out publicly, we try our best to meet that, right? But this was kind of a different situation, because not that information's not public. I know that we had a long bit of that radio silence too, right? And then I think that had a really adverse effect for the community itself. Okay. Oh, SCF. One second. 이거 소리가 안 나와서요. 그래서 그냥 이거 하기 위해서 고쳐 주세요. Yeah. So SCF just right. He's gonna get his coffee right now, but and he'll
Okay.
fix the.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm like on the fly adding compression to his voice so that it doesn't like get as low.
Okay, it's echoing. I see he's watching the stream on his phone.
Yeah.
You put it right next to my mic. Okay.
All right, that should be a little bit better.
Yeah. So hopefully once we switch over to the conference mic, it sounds better. But
yeah, no problem. I was like adding compression onto the channel so that like the peaks and valleys weren't as bad.
Yeah. But yeah, it was super stressful. I guess that's the best way. And you know, I'm not really one of those people that handle these kind of super stressful situations that well. But it was a ride. I guess that's the best way. And then in terms of our expectations performance of the current season is, so I mean, you know, we had all these crazy moving parts, right? So the other big thing was like the free to play, and that was crazy too. Like we built all that stuff in like a month, and you know, you remember like when we launched on Steam with the free to play on Epic too. It's like the initial response was, it was like that was, I feel like that's my mistake there. It was like, oh, I should have caught that. You know, people that kind of expectation of, oh, okay, I'm coming in as a totally new player, and it totally does look like we're trying to paywall you those new players and say, hey. So.
Well, I mean, in your defense, you guys kind of came around on that really fast, though. Like you made a pivot pretty quick. So I think the initial response from people was a little bit shocked, but I think that you guys turned it around really fast, and like that was reflected in the Steam reviews. So I think you guys did a pretty good job with it. Right? Yeah. I mean, Chad, you guys think they did a pretty good job? I would assume.
If we could have thought of, we could have had that foresight to, know that, oh wait, maybe we could have gone out with the version we have right now as the original version, and I think there's some messaging things like free to play, like a free to try. Internally, we had these kind of talks too. But like, yeah, there's so many big gigantic pieces that are moving around. I know that we had like a lot of radio silence right before we did the big, the seasonal launch, because there's a lot of the stuff that, we had to be pretty secretive about to have it. And this is the first time working with like actual, like, marketing partners and stuff. And they want, they have strategies, they have like marketing beats. And then you want to have like the maximum impact with those kind of beats and stuff. Right. And so these are things that we're learning. And so, but yeah, overall, I would say we're really, really happy. Like we feel like, okay, we have a good base now. We have in terms of the I guess, the foundational base of at least the game itself, the gameplay going into the dungeon stuff. We're really, feel like, okay, now this is something good to build upon. But at the same time, it's like we're still missing a lot of parts, right? In terms of like the over, the grand experience that we want to have for people, right? So I think like the moment to moment gameplay, the dungeon delving, some of that, I think, we're feeling like, oh, okay, we're finally starting to find the right pieces that, and fitting them together. And, people are figuring out. I think, we did have to do things on the fly with the adjusting to the expectations for free to play. And so there are some more adjustments that we have to make. there was stuff that we wanted to get out on that at the start of the season, right? We still haven't been able to do. We're still fixing things, like on the storefront, how the flow and everything. Like we had to basically there was just a lot of stuff that we're scrambling for, like we don't, one of the easy ways we could have reduced confusion was like if we had it as like a DLC package, right? Instead of you go through this kind of convoluted flow of like, but the reason we had to do that was because we're launching on multiple platforms. We have to support multiple platforms. We have Blacksmith, Epic, Steam. And so in that super short, condensed, limited amount of time for our backend team to make a peaceful solution for all of the, each platform, that was impossible. It's like, okay, what's the easiest way we could do it? Is okay, well, we could just make the transactional, that part is easier, right? It's like you could buy things, right? You buy this currency, and then we could check exactly like, oh, okay, they bought this currency, if there's refund stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background they have to consider, that once we wanted to do like a DLC or like that just makes everything super complicated. And then we have to build a system for that. So we're still working on that, right?
Right.
It's, we do realize like, hey, our solution is not the easiest way. We actually had like really high up people at, these partners companies say, hey, how do I upgrade like the DPs? I want to.
Your own business partners were having issues trying to upgrade their accounts. Okay, so something to streamline for the future, then, I suppose.
Yes, no, for sure. We're he's working on. Okay, I think we got this working. We're gonna try this out. Sorry for the
No, it's fine. It's fine. Oh, do you want me to switch like to a different account then? Won't be muted. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. They're trying to switch to like a studio mic, but I'm assuming that they want it to be on not the account that his cell phone is on, because right now he's on his phone. Offer him a bread. Could offer him an egg in this trying time. All right, yeah. Okay. Hold on. SDF is calling. Hello? Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay, I think it's working.
1 second, boys.
Hey, we can even in a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be more echoey now because we're in the... Okay.
No problem. All right. All right. Now we got SDF's icon instead. All right. Hopefully everybody can hear you guys just fine. It seems like it's fine.
It's not echoing too much?
Nope. I might have to turn you down a little bit.
Okay.
1 sec. All right, just say something real quick.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that'll work. I think that's fine.
Okay, cool.
Call me mother.
Oh no. All right, hold up. I'm getting like alerts and stuff again that I'm not supposed to be getting, and they're playing anyway. Hang on 1 second. Do. Sorry guys, give me 1 second. I don't know how I fixed this the last time. How did I do this? Okay. There. Get rid of that. Okay. Sorry, boys. I don't know why it does that. It's not supposed to, and it does anyway. One sec. I don't know why it does that. All right, anyway. Okay, let's continue, I guess.
Yeah.
Boomer streamers.
So,
yep.
Short answer is we're very satisfied with the
You're very satisfied with what now? Sorry.
So we're very satisfied with the current state. I mean, it'll be nice to have like more people on Steam, or more people on the other mainstream platforms. Just as like a marketing thing, right? But I think in overall, like the way we look at the health of the game, it's good. I think we're still missing some of the features that we wanted at the start of the season. It's especially like the new matchmaking system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I would say this season right now I would give it like a 8 or 9 out of 10. If it had that, no, 8 out of 10. If it has the once we get the matchmaking system, I would say, oh, okay, we got like 9 out of 10 of the stuff that I wanted. Right now,
So in terms of like, I guess how your current class rundown is, how do you guys feel about like the current class balance of what it is that you have in the game right now? Are there any classes in the game that you feel like are kind of close to where you want them to be in terms of like their build? Is there like any stuff that you feel like it's a little bit too strong, a little bit too weak?
Man, that's a super complicated question. And
it's a big question, yeah.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is, depending on who you ask here, you're going to get a completely different answer, right? Yeah.
All right, so we need to nerf clerics, okay?
Yeah.
Right? All the clerics are pissed.
Yeah, so in terms of balancing stuff, those are discussions that we're having a lot more internally too, right?
Sure.
So I will say, like, we're having a lot more, I guess, like a healthy discussion in here, and it speaks to right now is like where we feel like the base game itself, the systems there are feeling really good, that we could have this kind of discussion. Whereas before it was like, dude, these kind of things we're building a lot of parts at the same time, so we're trying to talk in like abstract. Whereas like now, so we just have to get more of the data. We look at the feedback. So I would say, yeah, like balancing for us is gonna be a challenge no matter what, just because we have to align internally on what we want to expect for balance, and then what player expectation is, and then also on like what the actual future vision for what we want to create too. So those are all like 3 parts of like kind of opposing things that we have to take into consideration. So yeah, I'm not going to give an answer because I don't want to like
that's fair.
Biases, yeah.
That's fair. All right, so we're buffing the cleric then. Got it.
So I think that's one of the things that the both of us could agree on is we're not going to be buffing the
not going to buff the cleric. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Hear that, clerics? Your days are numbered.
I don't care about the bonus. Yeah. See, so you heard what he said right now.
Okay. Is there a class that you feel like is most closely resembling how you want the class to play at the moment? Like in terms of like your vision of how you want the classes to be like established? Is there any one that you feel like is pretty close to completion? Or do you feel like they all are going to get like major changes or something in the future?
그 클래스 중에 주님이 생각하는 비전에 제일 맞는 지금 밸런스 쪽으로 있는지.
다 잘 맞아요.
Yeah, so he said all of them are pretty good.
Okay.
I really don't care about the balance.
Yeah, so he says he really doesn't care about balance. I don't think it's something he's interested in.
그냥 그 너무 심한 것만 없으면 돼요. 지금은.
Yeah. So right now, so I think that part of the goal this season too was to start really where even internally we could start talking about balance like in a healthy way.
그냥
Sure.
그 얘기를 해도 것 같아요. 우리가 얼마나 많은 그 밸런스 컨플릭트가 있었고 그
Okay.
어떤 그러니까 우리 둘이 생각이 되게 다른데 그 얘기를 해주고
So
이번 시즌은 this season is Terry's.
okay, yeah. So okay, so there's a bit of history. Okay, so okay, if you guys know this, you just put some context into you've seen a lot of whiplash, right? There was literally like a civil war inside our company in terms of balance. Okay?
Yeah.
We are like diametrically opposites in how we try to balance. We look at balance and how we try to look at this is, but that's what I want to say is like we're at this point now where the way I balance things is I try to get things down to a baseline where it's not going to be very tasty, right? If we use like a chef's cooking analogy, right? It's like, okay, I want to start with like this base broth and then we start. And then STF he's like the Michelin star. I was like, he knows all the spices and all that. And he wants, and so we've been going at it internally for like the last year or whatever, right? But but doing that was kind of unhealthy. It's also not great for the player base because you see things just like going back and forth, right? Where we don't have that kind of agreement, right? So this time it was like, okay, you know what? Let's try, the so he put a lot of faith in me on this, and then because of that.
So what you're saying is that all of this right now is your fault.
No. So we always like. I guess this is the issue, not an issue, right? This is like when you do compromise sometimes, right? Like neither side feels satisfied.
Right,
like,
sure,
okay,
yeah.
But the thing that we feel we're healthy is okay. At least at this baseline, so he's made a lot of granted me a lot of leeway this time, right? That's what he's saying. And so for me, it's like, oh, okay. At the same time, it's like, oh, okay. There's tweaks and stuff happening, but it's more like, oh, okay. We're at this stage, and we could start. I have that gratitude. It's like, oh, okay. At least you let me try these things out this time. I feel like, and so we're having a lot healthier discussion instead of just like keep on, oh, okay, funny, and so we're trying to figure out, okay, to re-add some of that spiciness, right? It's like we don't want to make a bland, and that wasn't my intention either, right? It's like we want to have these kind of like peaks and valleys of different kinds of taste, and I'm using this food analogy because that's the way that we've kind of matched our thoughts here internally too. It's like, okay, I know right now, like he always say to me, it's like, dude, everything tastes so bland right now, right? I was like, yeah, okay, we'll start here, and you're gonna start adding the spices again. And so we've already seen that, right? Like the unique came back in, right? So that was like, okay, that's a little bit of that like cayenne, It's like, yeah, now do your thing, chef, right? So
all right.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the stuff that's going behind the scenes. The reason he SDF saying I don't care about the balance right now is like, okay, for this season now, he put in the little bit of spice. That's enough for right now. let's let this simmer, and then
I'm satisfied.
yeah, he's satisfied. Like next season, he's gonna be like, okay, I can start experimenting more. So it's gonna slowly build up now, right? Instead of like us going like, oh, I want to do my way, no, and then okay, let's try it for a day or two, and then no, we're not,
Right.
we'll have less of that, yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully, yeah.
So for future facing stuff, then some of this is for like this season, from things that you had projected from when the season started, the notes that you had, and then other things are obviously like further out. So just kind of going down the list, and most of this came from a thread that I made on Reddit and other places where I just asked people what they wanted to know, and I said I would just kind of go down through. A lot of these were like repeat questions, but you had a lot of interest in this, by the way, fellas, because there was over like 350 entries just on the Reddit thread alone. So there's a lot of questions, a lot of repeat stuff, but. So
I tried to do the sneak peek too, like
yeah,
do a little peek, but
so like obviously we tried to filter it out a little bit, but for future facing stuff, the first one that was like the big major one that people want to know about was the status of the Ruins rework.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, okay. In terms of this season, like one of the things that we thought was a really big success on our side, that we were really satisfied with was the Frost Wyvern. Well, for the most part, there's things that we're gonna start tuning. Yeah, I see your face right there. Yeah.
It's difficult to get the fight started because you have to like make friends.
Yeah.
And it's a complete culture shift from like how the rest of the game is played. Yeah. And unless you're a content guy, right? It's really like, because we started doing this where like on Sundays, myself and Soapy this past Sunday, even, and the weekend before it was me and Repose, we were like creating community days where people could like actually experience content that they otherwise wouldn't be able to, because you don't get those natural interactions from people. Usually it's just like, oh, you want to do that? You're probably going to betray me. Screw that. Like, I'm just going to kill you. So yeah, well.
이번 시즌 다음 패치? 금요일 패치.
Yeah. So what he's saying, sneak peek for the next hot fix is hopefully this week, but maybe not, is so we're gonna change that. So basically it was an experiment, So if you always have to consider, for us, a lot of the stuff we're doing things because, oh, hey, we have this assumption that this will be cool, and we try it, internally we're like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Of course, we have these biases because we're internal and we're testing, and we're like, hey, everyone, okay, get up there, ready, 1, 2, 3, which is totally artificial, right? So in the real world, it's going to be completely different. But at the same time, we're like, oh, well, online kind of, simulates like the real world, and maybe people be able to. So that was the hope. Again, the reality is totally different, right? So
비전 나오긴 했으니까.
yeah. So the big thing was like, oh, on a vision wide, like, hey, having these kind of crazy, these super, exciting, like almost raid like boss encounters, and having that kind of environment enclosure for that, like that was something that, oh, okay. And we added a lot of new monsters. I think we have to do some tweaking on making the risk reward for like the Ice Abyss a little bit better. But overall, we're like, oh, hey, that team, our team that worked on that, they basically way exceeded our expectations. We have high hopes. And so now for us as a direction, that's something like in terms of content, that's like a blueprint we have. It's like, oh, okay, we want to do more of those kind of stuff, right? In the future, we want to have more varied locales that are exciting, that have these kind of varied monsters, have these kind of cool boss encounters, that kind of stuff, right? So like the week after, everyone was like super excited, like, man. So
we saw this movie.
Yeah, that SDF, that world's first Frost Wyvern clear. I think Repos put that up, right? Yeah. SDF put that into our main team's chat, and it's like, everyone in the company must watch this. This is what we worked with for, and you guys knocked it out of the park. And we need to do more of this stuff, right?
It's a fun fight.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that video was awesome.
That's our first movie.
Yeah, no, so he's saying that's like our first movie, it's like he wants more of that kind of content coming out from our game, right? So that's our goal. And then that was like, this Frostbite kind of showed that that's possible. So, everyone got super excited. It's like, okay, we're going to work. So we started already planning on that kind of next new locale, and people internally are super excited about it, right? And then we got super excited too, hearing like their ideas. They're like, okay, let's do it for the next season, right? But then we realized, oh my God, wait, that's totally unreasonable, So this leads into that ruins, right? The reason why is like originally, like after we're all high on like, oh, okay, we could do it. You guys did an awesome job. We're gonna make this new locale. It's gonna be amazing. And this is gonna be the next like ice, Frost Wyvern, the Frost Mountain kind of thing. But then reality struck. They're like, dude, there's no way we're gonna get this made in like 2 months, right? And it's like, okay, so the initial goal was we wanted that to be the next season, and that's impossible, right? It's like that's just not possible, right? With the resources, it's just things need time to cook, right? So it's like, okay, so for next season, what can we do, right? It's like, okay, let's do the ruins, right? The ruins we have lying around, right? And then initially, so all this stuff happened last week, like late last week. It was like, okay, well, we can't do our next theme. It's not going to be ready. What's the stopgap that we could work on? Oh wait, yeah, we've always been talking about doing the ruins, and now we feel like, hey, we have, there's things that we want to kind of explore. In the past, we've tried it like the 3 layers. Originally the ruins was part of that 3-layer dungeon experience, right? It was the ruins, crypts, the inferno, right? But it's like, hey, to get like that 3-layer working, right now, people are kind of accustomed to the current like the timing and the quest system, and it's like having, there's new challenges that come back with the 3 layers. We have things that we want to try. We think are going to be solutions for some of those challenges, but not all of it, right? So we're like, okay, well, we need new content for the next season. What can people get excited about, and we wanted to kind of do new themes each season, but I don't think that's going to be possible until we get a little bit more experience under our belt, right? But hey, what about reworking stuff that we've already kind of have a base for? And then it was fun, but there's little things that we should fix and tweak there. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, the bringing back ruins for the next season. That seems like something that we could actually handle
with the new boss.
Yeah, and so the other thing we learned is like, oh, hey, in structure wise, right? We have multiple structures. It's like the 3 layers is tough for us. We don't have enough data for that, right? But like the 2-layer we know works, and then we have a unique one with the Goblin Caves. We have the big Goblin Caves with the 2 bosses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, hey, wait, that seems to be working on its own too. It's like, hey, so the new idea, again, this is work in progress. This is like, even our team was like, hey, is this gonna work? Do we have enough time? But our thinking is, hey, maybe try to rework the ruins as in that format of the Goblin Cave style. And so
okay,
now like STF, he wants 2 bosses. I don't know if we're going to be able to do 2 bosses. So a lot of that pressure goes to the monster team, right?
I don't know, man. Like on the consumer side of things, 2 bosses sounds pretty good to me. Just saying.
So as managers, man, we would love to have 2 bosses, right?
I like the idea.
If our monster team guys were here right now, they'll be like, no, they're all gonna be shaking. Wait, how much time do we have for this, right? So
all right, so 2 bosses coming with ruins next season. That's what I'm hearing. All right,
fingers crossed, right? So
yeah,
I'm so glad our lead monster guy is not here right now. Yeah.
All right. So So at any rate, though, you're looking at adding ruins for next season. The ruins we rework, however it comes out.
Yeah. So
okay.
I think that the realistic, practical thing that we could do as a content drop for the next season is going to be the rework of the ruins, and then it's going to have its own, new boss experiences, and then the other stuff is SDF wants to really work on that new class too. So I don't know how. Everyone knows about the Sorcerer, right? So
Right.
he's been talking about it. He's doing a lot of the design stuff, and again, we have some overhead right now with the stuff that we're still fixing with the launches, the relaunch onto the mainstream platforms and stuff, and then even stuff that we weren't able to get out for this patch that we originally intended, like the matchmaking stuff. So we're still working on that. So once we get some of that stuff, and performance also is, I think, we're still trying to figure out how to get back to that. Like we had that super nice, super silky performance for at one point, like in February, and then we did the engine upgrade, but for us, we have to do those kind of engine upgrades to make sure that, hey, we don't get left too far behind, right? And so we're fixing those kind of things one by one. We're still trying to figure out. We also had there was a big on the back end side, so we had the inventory refactoring, and that we're still it's not complete yet, right? We're still finding fine tuning. There's still bugs, still buggy. There's still there's performance stuff there that we have to address. So these are all stuff that's going on that's being worked on under the hood right now. And so so our job is trying to get better at doing things parallel. Like we are just like this for a long time. We're just like this one pipeline kind of studio, and this is kind of so the last season was our first time kind of trying to branch out to do things in multiple pipelines, and then this next season is going to be like, oh, okay, kind of refining that, but it's still in the early stages. Like onboarding, this is our first, we basically doubled in size in 6 months, right? And we didn't have those kind of processes in place. Our background is we don't come from business management, or we're just developers.
But we already 3 years old.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know how the time went by so quickly, but it's going to be 3 years soon. But so I mean, expanding out the pipelines and stuff is that's we overestimated a lot of stuff. Well, oh yeah, you guys, they'll come on board, we'll onboard them for a month, and then hey, they're pushing out new features. It's like, no. Yeah.
Maybe we are now 19.
Well, with contractors and everything like that, yeah. But again, so the number might seem high, but if you talk in terms of people that are fully onboarded, kind of know the system and stuff, it's still, so that's an area that we have to do a lot of improvement on. Is okay, quickly onboarding. And we're getting better because the first people that kind of joined us in this kind of new wave, it took them 5 months to onboard, where they're making features that actually the fan base, player base can actually see. It's we're working on kind of shortening that. Yeah. So there's a lot of people that have come in on recently, right? And so they're not making the full contribution yet, but we feel okay, we're improving our processes little by little. It's not nowhere near where we want it to be, but for us, we see that we are improving on that, right? I think so. This season, just compare last season and this season, okay? And that could show you the amount of progress that we've been having. And then there was a big clash too, because we kind of overestimated last season, like what our capacity, what we were able to do. And then we totally messed that up, because people weren't onboarded, right? And we're like, oh, in our mind, we're making the schedules last. So it's like, oh, these guys are all going to be here. And that's why we under-delivered, right?
Mhm.
So hopefully we're getting better at fulfilling our promises, right?
Sure.
I still feel like we get overexcited sometimes, and so now my job is like, okay, we gotta. I know it's not as exciting and stuff for the players, but maybe we should keep our mouth shut a little bit more. Like, yeah. So again, it's a little learning process like that.
Okay. So
yeah.
So all right, so then we also have like Arena that we've seen that there's like a couple of map layouts, and then we have like another big like elephant in the room is like the removal of the lobby system and moving more towards like that social hub that you guys were talking about, so that we don't have guys doing like scouting and inspecting on the fly and stuff.
So okay, those two are super high priority, goals for us for the future of the game, right? So, and I think that's one of the reasons that SCF and I, having this kind of clash for balance stuff is like Arena is going to be his kind of domain, where it's like, oh, okay, I could cook and to my heart's delight with the competitive, like, so it's a very, very high priority feature. So that it's once we get all the the stuff that's backlogged in for this season that we originally wanted to do,
right?
I think that will probably be the highest priority big feature.
Okay.
Right.
So the lobby obviously being one of those things that was on for this season.
So yeah. So the matchmaking lobby thing that was supposed to be done this season, right? So that's a good part of the backlog. So when I'm talking about like big big ticket features, with high priority is I'm specifically talking about the Arena, and that one is is such a high priority feature that STF personally is going to be like leading that everything, that team itself that's going to do the Arena. It's going to be his pet project basically, right? And so yeah. So basically the way we're looking at it is now that the dungeon experience itself, right? The core, like you delve into dungeons and you have that kind of PvE, PvP experience. We feel like we're over that minimum threshold now, finally. Like the minimum, like what we kind of envisioned in our mind as the game, right? So for here, it's like, okay, we're gonna take a little bit of a break. I mean, there's things that we want to expand on this, right? But like system wise, like SCF and I, we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to leverage the content team, and we're going to let people. We're going to expand the dungeon delving experience with new content, like the new bosses, new monsters, and kind of take the pedal off for new features in the dungeon. So like when I talk about new features, like we mentioned previously in the past, like random shuffling of the modules and stuff. Like these are things that we want to explore, but that's gonna be lower priority for right now. We're basically, because if we want to do that, then STF and we have to get involved in that, right? So, but for us, it's like, hey, the dungeon delving experience surpassed that minimum threshold, and we could keep on improving this slowly with leveraging the content design team. So they're going to make more content, and then the dungeon delving, the base experience, we're going to keep on improving, and they could do that. And that doesn't need as much input from like STF and I. Whereas then we could focus on our pet projects, right? So where we think like, hey, the dungeon delving part is one experience and one pillar of Dark and Darker. but there's other aspects that we feel are totally neglected right now. So like the arena is like, people are coming. One of the attractiveness of our game is that PvP tension, right? Like having that, and it's like there's that competitive PvP aspect of the game too, right? Is that we have a unique like skill / perk / melee centric kind of FPS kind of combat system. It's like, and people are really into this, and with a party system, right? And it's like, hey, we want to, people figured out like, oh, some of the best parts of our game is when you're fighting with other parties and stuff, right? And so that's something that SCF totally recognizes, is like, oh, okay, I want to show that, and full disclosure, I think, we tried with our adventure rank system. I think we didn't succeed in what we wanted to do. And I think part of it has to do with like, it's not a proper reflection of like skill-based, leaderboard, right? So I think you saw that we kind of like, hey, we're gonna kind of throw our hands up this season, and
you made it the easiest grind in the history of the leaderboards. So
So, but because we always still have that kind of yearning for like, oh, okay, we want something that's a little bit more pure for like the competitive aspect. And so and the other thing, like SDF, he was one of the things was he was like a competitive WoW arena player for a while too, right? So there's things, and he's a very, very competitive person, like and FPS games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that drive always, right? And it's like, oh, okay, the current adventure boards leaderboard, that's not fulfilling that need in me, right? So I'm gonna work on this. And so we know that there's a lot of people that have that similar kind of they want that kind of similar kind of satisfaction from the competitive aspect. So we're like, okay, that's definitely a part we're neglecting right now. He's like, I want to take the steering wheel for this. I'm going to build this for it. You're the best person to do that. Let's go. The other aspect for me was like, okay, and this actually came from SCF too, is what we're talking about. It's like, there's a lot of stuff, the social aspect, right? So there's like, it's a group party game. And it's like, so I think that was one of the things with the tavern. We had a lot of internal discussion, is like removing that tavern or the base camp in the front. The pre-lobby is like, we're going to be pretty sad because there's autos there, and then there's a lot of like these kind of, funny social interactions that happen there. Like when we put in the rock, paper, scissors emotes, like there's that culture that like people just built up, just interacting with each other. And so like this time we just put the VoIP back on too, right? So we see like, oh, people like engaging in those kind of social interactions. And now we realize, hey, to improve the matchmaking, we're actually taking away that kind of social space. So there's going to be this gaping hole and it wasn't even, a proper social space, but people have that need. And so they're doing, those actions in that constrained space. So it's like, hey, okay, what if we made this where it's actually better built for, people to socialize and stuff. And then, so that's an aspect that, I'm going to be kind of taking the forefront of, kind of, hey, what are the ways that we could build better, like strengthen social ties in the game. And then I think the last part is like, we want, people to be able to like, there's like, it's a looting game, right? So you're collecting things and we want a personal space too, right? That you can start like customizing and there's like a little bit more permanent progression and stuff. So we've already started working on, we've already created a special task force team to work on this. Actually, it's not even a team, it's one person.
Another one guy.
Yeah. And so making like a housing system, right? And so, and then on top of this, in the future is like a guild system. So it's like the way we look at social spaces is not just like there's one fit all, right? It's like you have like private social spaces, like your home, right? Like in real life, right? And then you have like a public social space, like your, you know, the society itself, right? And that would be like, you know, where you could interact with strangers. And then you have like group social spaces, right? And I think all you know, and like for us, it's like when we come to the office or, you know, your close set of buddies or whatever, right? It's like, and so all three of those social needs have to be addressed, right? That's the way we're thinking. So
Okay.
previously, we just needed to work on the core game itself, and it took, you know, almost 3 years to get to that minimum point where like, oh, okay, we're kind of, and we could kind of give us some buffer time with content now because we have a blueprint for that with the recent, you know, Ice Mountain Frost Wyvern. So now it gives us a little bit more freedom to do more stuff like, oh, okay, these are the other stuff that we always had in the back of our mind that we thought was super, super important, that we never had that freedom or liberty to work on. And now we're going to start working on it.
Okay. All right. So will we then see the removal of the matchmaking like from the lobby like inside of this season, or do you feel like it's going to get pushed?
Oh. No, so I'm gonna like he's saying
I am aiming for 2 weeks.
okay, well, so my job now, I realized last season is expectation management, right? So it's gonna be easy to, or not easy, but you know, the pre-lobby with basically the basic functionality, getting that, you know, reworked for people to join in and kind of move around and hit the training dummies, we could do that pretty easily. But then to start transferring over some of the out-game, you know, metagame features like partying up. So our goal is like we want people to be able to party up, you know, talk to each other, inspect each other, and then actually matchmake from within the gathering hall itself, right? That's going to take a little bit longer because, again, this is stuff we're learning with onboarding. It's like we're like, hey, we just hired a couple more server engineers. Yes, now you know our you know our story is like we always have one guy for one position, right? Now it's like we have 3 guys, but it doesn't mean that we tripled our capacity. It actually, what that means, what we found out is, I mean, we kind of, you know, assume our one guy's power actually drops because he's spending half his time training the other guy. Right? So
So would it be possible then to just remove the ability to inspect people in the meantime? Because that's really the major issue.
Oh, so like what SCF was saying is like getting rid of that, you know, because this was a high priority issue in our backlog for a while, is that we're aiming to get that new matchmaking system without the pre-lobby. It's probably in our current list of tasks, that's the one with the highest priority right now. So that means that that's going to come out pretty soon anyways, if we're just diverting. So like removing inspection or whatever is like, we could do that, but then now it
would make things more difficult.
I don't know if it's more difficult, but like we don't like going through that kind of like figuring out all the side effects and stuff.
Fine tuning.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so for it's like, because we already have momentum on the current matchmaking and removing this, right? Is like, oh, okay, kind of slow that down to, it's going to be the same. So what I'm saying is that the person working on this is going to be the same person that had to do that, right? And it's like, I don't want to be like, hey, he's focused on like this race right now. I was like, hey, wait, one second. Yeah, you know, I know.
Yeah, I mean, whatever gets you guys to the end goal faster, I think, is the most important thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I would have to say there is like, okay, you know, I don't want to, he's almost to the finish line. So I don't want to give him any distractions right now, even if it's like something super simple. Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess for future facing stuff, is there anything in future plans for like more weapons that have counter mechanics in them, like riposting style stuff? Like we just got the lantern shield, right? Which has a parry and like a block and riposte mechanic. Is there stuff like a parrying dagger or like a sword breaker, anything like that in the future?
I am preparing with the ones.
Okay. So yeah. So all those kind of things, like we take inspiration from all those.
Matchmaking one.
Yeah. So, but what he's okay. Context 하나 주고 싶은 거는. So we take a lot of inspiration from a lot of medieval weapons. So like
Sure.
those things are in this list, but it's not coming soon. Like,
Okay.
So what he's saying
Okay.
is so there's weapons coming out. Again, right now that is part of one of our bottlenecks is because in terms of like the player combat, building guys is we don't have a lot of people that are experts there. But the next thing that in terms of like weapons and items that we're focused on and people have already data mined this like almost like a year ago. So that's how long this has been in the works is the magic wands, right? And it kind of, so yeah, that's I don't know if it's going to come out next season or not, but so like the wizard right now, the implementation right now, he's in a weird place too because originally the original intention when SEO was making the wizard is like, okay, it has this, and then there was already supposed to be magic wands, in the game, right? And so that was kind of one of the ways to
with containing random magic.
Yeah. So
yeah. Okay.
Cannot using that.
Yeah, and it would have, you would have to have like
will it have a number of charges too?
Because there should be knowledge.
Yeah, there's minimum knowledge requirements. These are all things like they have set amount of charges that could never be so
okay.
But yeah, sorry, Barry. Sorry. No, so the thing is, this was supposed to be in the game a year ago, right? And so this was like one of the reasons, like, oh, meditation kind of sucks for wizards right now, but then they're gonna have if they're finding these wands, right, and they're gonna be like these super glass cannons that have these super powerful. Like this is one way to opt, but then the wands never came in, and then now you're just the wizards there, like, oh, every 3 minutes you have to sit there, and it's like, oh, okay.
Right.
So, yeah, and then the other thing is that wizard right now is kind of in a weird spot. Is like, he's the one. So that's why for STF right now is like, sorcerer, getting the sorcerer out there is a high priority for him too. It's like, okay, yeah, like because people have certain expectations of like this magic caster, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the wizard right now is kind of like this. Anything magical in our game is like kind of he's just dumped into there right now, right? So it's a weird, yeah. So I think
okay. So speaking about stuff that's been talked about for like a year, we also have gems and sockets, which was something that was mentioned a long time ago.
Gems and sockets. Oh my god!
You didn't think I was going to bring that shit up, did you?
Because
I want to explain.
Yeah.
But
no, yeah. Oh, so this is because it's so coincidental, right? Because so yeah, again, we've been talking about this for a year, right? And then he just Monday he was like, no, it was last Friday. He was like, we got to get the gems and sockets in this season. I was like, you're out of your mind. Like, so again,
because there's so many trash items. Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of aftercare stuff that we thought of that got pushed back that we forget about. It's like lurking on our Confluence, right? And then we're like, oh, okay. And then the original issue rears its ugly head again. And it was like, oh yeah, we already thought of this, but we never implemented it. Like, and that was a perfect example. And it was like, oh, okay. And that was perfect timing too, because like the last two, we go to lunch and all we do is we just talk about Dark and Darker at lunch, right? And that was the hot topic of discussion for the last couple lunches is, oh, okay, how are we gonna get the sockets? When are we gonna do the jams?
Yeah. Skills and talent trees in there too, I would assume.
So that was a higher priority originally. So we actually wanted to do it as like a reach goal at the end of the season, or our as a mid-season thing. I think right now, because we made the broth right now. We don't want to mix it up too much yet. So we kind of push that back a little bit, right? And I think we kind of also learned from the feedback from the pushing out that multi-classing a little too too strongly, I guess.
Sure.
It's like, oh, okay. So there's a little bit of wariness right now. It's like, okay, so we put that on the back. It was, if you talk to us a month ago, we had this podcast, and we were like, oh, okay, it's gonna come out this season. It's a good thing we're talking now. We're like, oh, okay, we're gonna hold off on that because
and that's funny because we almost did have this thing a month ago. So
we almost didn't have the what? Sorry.
No, we almost had this podcast a month ago because we talked about doing it after the season went live. Yeah.
So that's the other thing that I want to make sure the viewers understand is like, hey, we have these kind of hot topics that come out, and then we think about it a little bit deeper, and then we're like, okay, wait, we should adjust things. So yeah, that's why when SC was like, the sock is coming out this season, I'm like, okay, let's hold on. Because there is a good chance. There is really a good chance, but
It can be.
So you're saying there's a chance. Okay. All right.
There's a chance.
All
yes.
Right. All right. So in that same vein, we know that there is another wheel for Druid animal forms. Should we expect to see any like new animal forms of any kind in the near future?
Penguin.
Yeah. So again,
There are so many things. The penguin, gorilla.
yeah, he has the turtle, gorilla, penguin. That's all.
penguin.
Gorilla.
Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah. So, I think, and then you also saw like one of the things kind of work structurally with the Druid is that the animal forms kind of link up with some of the main primary attributes too.
Yes.
We have a lot of unused primary attributes right now, right? So,
yeah.
But I think Sorcerer is a higher priority than the shapeshift right now.
Okay.
First.
So
Yeah.
we should see
So
Sorcerer like really getting pushed hard then.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Sorcerer is like pretty high priority because the thing is because people come into the game with this it's this old school classic fantasy, right? And you come in, you have the magic user, right? And then you come in and you have our wizard right now, who's kind of this mishmash of different kind of magical concepts, right? And it's like, oh, okay. Whereas like I think if we have the sorcerer, it's like it'll be more in tune to like total new players coming in. Is like, oh, okay, this is what I thought of as a magic user, like powerful, like flames skills, no need to like do these kind of sit down, meditate, that kind of stuff, so there's multitude of ways to implement magic even in the structure of our game itself, right? So he wants to show that, hey, the wizard isn't the only way to do like these kind of, offensive or that kind of classic fantasy magic class in our game.
So are you thinking there might be like a new style of like magic mechanic with the sorcerer? Okay.
Yeah. Well, so the play style, so you'll have a totally different type of play style with even if you have the same magic spells. That's what he's aiming for.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys feel like elaborating on, or do you want to like hold it close to the vest for now?
디테일 주고 싶은 거 있어요? Or he has a surprise.
I know SDS likes his secrets, so.
네. 뭐안 해도 되고요. 저를 걱정해요.
I'm trying, boys. I'm trying.
이제 매직 미디엄이 필요 없는 거. 그게 매직 미디엄들 우리가 지금 쓰고 있는 위자드 스펠북 이런 거 없이.
Okay, so one hint he'll give you right now is the sorcerer won't need a magic the medium. So he won't have, or he or she won't have to be holding like a staff or a magic. Yeah.
Yeah, you had mentioned. I think you mentioned when you talked to Soma last something about like revamping the barehanded like style of mechanics, so that way you could work it into like playing monk or something afterward.
Yes. Yeah. So
그리고 양손에 캐스팅하고 근데 지금 저는 이제 아이디어 좋았던 거는 그 사람들이 그 컴바인 매직 만드는 얘기 있었잖아요. 이거 처음엔 그 생각이 없었는데 요즘에 이제 그 생각을 좀 하고.
Yeah. So again, if you see my face, I'm like, oh man, because
there's just the vibe rise for
yeah. But so okay, he's giving more hints. Is basically you could wield different magic on each hand, right?
Okay.
And so originally he was like, okay, this is set. But then there's a lot of people talking about combining magic or mixing, and he was like, hey, that's a really cool idea. And now he's being very ambitious about like,
oh boy,
that sounds fun.
Little Frostfire action. Okay. All right.
My worry is if we start going down that route too much, then we're not going to have Sorcerer next season.
All right. I mean, I'm all for like the Skyrim style of like magic wielder from back in the day, where like, you know, if you had fire in both hands and threw a fireball, it became stronger. Like you did the double hand flamethrower thing. It was always kind of cool.
그러니까 두 개 이렇게 하면 합쳐도 이런 거가 더 세게 되는 거 그런 것도
재밌을 거죠. 물론 이제 캐스팅 타임이 2배로 걸리겠죠.
Yeah. So yeah.
더블 테스트.
So he's already thinking like how am I going to balance that? You know, it's like, it's going to be stronger, but then the casting time has to be doubled or so. You know. So,
right.
Stop giving him ideas, guys. It's not going to come out.
Oh boy. Okay. All right. So you had said something about how the inventory rework that you guys recently did isn't completed yet. So I'm going to assume then that means that the idea of like quivers, backpack expansions, that kind of stuff is getting like a little bit further pushed.
Because, there's still too many bugs right now. We have to fix. Yeah. So again, you know, it was like a year and a half of refactoring, and then it went in. So that. Okay, so we're learning, you know, we have to improve that, our expectations and process and stuff. And then, yeah, so it's a work in progress even now, you know, there's things that we feel like it's not satisfactory for us yet. So there's still a lot of bugs. So until we 그 inventory refactoring. 그러니까 그 퀴버하고 그 extra backpack 이거 하는데 이것도 우리가 지난주에 얘기했잖아요. 근데 이거 다 완료되면 so it has to be completed first and then we can start working on it.
지금 이제 스트리머들이나 처음 뉴비들 게임 플레이할 때 보면은 그 인벤토리에서 아이템 옮길 때 그 페일드하는 경우가 되게 많아요. 그러니까 사소하게. 근데 그런 것들이 스트레스가 되게 커서.
Yeah. So okay. So he's giving an example, right? He's giving an example. It's like if you, so you know, with the recent relaunch, right, on the mainstream platforms, we see influx of like newer players. We like watching this new player experience, you know, because we don't have, we're so biased now. Our viewpoint is so narrow, right? Because it's like the free to play. Like we had super blind. It's like those horses, the race horses. They put the little things on their eyes, so you can only see straight ahead. And that's like what happened to us. So when we see like new players, like whoa, wait, they're struggling with this. Oh, that, you know, it's totally eye-opening for us. But the one thing we you know that really hurts us is like we see them, and we notice this too. Is like even you know, like you're moving things from inventory where you do the drag and drop.
Yes.
It's like there's a lot of times you drag and drop and it doesn't move over, and you're like, and these are things that are not fixed in the new inventory system, right? And so there's like fundamental stuff that we have to still work on there. Like, you know, if we start moving on to quivers and backpacks and stuff, and it still feels horrible, like transferring items and stuff, is like, you know, why do we even do that? You know, we want to make the base system really solid first, and then we'll start adding on to it. So, but because it's such an extensive, you know, huge system, the inventory system as a whole is like getting all these little things one by one, and some of these are like deep-rooted stuff. So,
do you feel like the majority of the player base is playing normals? Or do you or like geared normals or like ungeared? Have you guys looked at that breakdown recently?
So
We should be quiet.
Maybe you don't want to answer that.
Sorry about the beta.
yeah, this one.
We have been lacking point a bit there.
Yeah,
For now.
for now. Later on, yeah.
Maybe tell us later at the end of the season.
Give me some time.
Yeah.
Okay. Any hints on Froststone ore crafts?
Okay, Froststone ore. Okay, craft. Oh, well, it's coming out soon.
It should be
Yeah, I think it's almost yeah,
very soon.
very soon.
Okay.
But this is the thing. Like we look at the auction and the prices and stuff, we're like, man. So okay, this is stuff like we're kind of readjusting in real time. I was like, dude, you like the player fan base expectation is so high. Like, oh man, okay.
Oh, that
But
pricing is speculative as hell.
Yeah. And we're like, oh, okay. So yeah, but it's coming out, and hopefully it's not. We're not too far off. So you know, again, that balancing right now, we don't want to mixture up the soup too much. You know, like the earlier conversation, right? But we don't want to totally miss what the player expectation is, and so we're getting these signals from different players. We're like, oh man, okay.
Oh, I think you should mess with them. I think it should become like relatively mediocre stuff, so that everybody that was trying to hold that for value ends up getting their ass handed to them.
Yeah.
Hell with them. All right. Okay. So we recently saw you guys sponsored a bunch of Tarkov streamers, right? Et cetera, to come and try out Dark and Darker. How did the marketing push go? Did you feel like it was successful?
요즘.
뭐 얘기해주면 좋을 것 같아.
Yeah. No. So again, we're
trying.
Yeah, we're trying. So it's a learning experience for us.
Actually.
Yeah. So I think that's more valuable than anything else. So I don't know if we're in the right place to say if it's a success or not, right? Because we're not. We're the farthest from marketing experts. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So thank God we have Soma here helping us, kind of learn the ropes here and stuff, right? Yeah. So I think it would be too presumptuous for us to say like, oh, that's a success or not, because that's not our domain at all. Like marketing for us to us is a black box. It's like this big question mark. So we're like, we don't know how to do that. Like that's part of our motto with making games too. It's like, hey, if we don't know it, that's not something that we're gonna try to pretend to like. Yeah. But then we do have, if we have curiosity and we want to learn, then we'll start figuring out until we could have like that base knowledge. So that's I think what we're leveraging. So it was like, hey, okay, you be help us kind of be our teacher here in that space. So yeah.
So do you think we're going to see like a Twitch Drops event or like a Twitch Rivals event in the near future?
One anniversary.
So again, these are things that we want to do. Again, we're not marketing guys, so we don't know the details of how to do this.
Okay.
We have it's like, you know, those crazy random rants on Twitter or whatever. We're like those guys when it comes to marketing, right? So you have to take a lot of what we say with a grain of salt, right?
Sure.
Like, oh, that's a good idea, but we don't know if in actuality what all the repercussions and stuff. So, but yes, we would love to do Twitch drops. We would love to do those kind of events and stuff. I think, you know, we have like the 1 year anniversary of our early access coming up soon. We launched on Blacksmith on August 7th. So, you know, we would love to do something to kind of commemorate that. So again, I think, you know, we're open to learning about marketing. And then once we get a little bit more comfortable, I think, you know, STF could actually give, you know, or both of us, I'll be very open. I don't actually, me personally, I'm not that curious about marketing. I'm, you know, it's like, oh, it's a very complicated, like very, what is it? You know, impactful, domain. But that's not, my focus is back to game development, right? So it's like, and then my brain, as I'm getting older, is like, I only have so much bandwidth in my brain. So it's like, okay, I'm going to focus here. But SCF is the opposite. He's just like, oh, wait. He has like very little like marketing wasn't really on his radar. But because now it's like we have Soma here, we did do the first marketing, and it's like, oh, okay, we're getting some of the data coming in. It's like, oh, why is this data doing this? Why is this? I'm curious about that. So he started like asking me. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. We have, you know, that's why we have Soma. So I think it's a good thing that, you know, we have that kind of resource, and then hopefully, you know, we could give better answers, or he could give better answers, or, you know, someone could give me, you know, actual expert answers. So.
Soma's in the chat laughing that you're referring to him as an expert right now.
He is.
Soma, this is resting entirely on your shoulders, bro. All right. This is all you. I expect to see a Twitch Drops event in the next month. 2 at the most. All right, let's go. Chop, chop.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
We will try.
yeah.
No
And
pressure, bro.
cat will coming.
Cat.
Not the.
No. So, yeah. He's giving out too many hints, right? See, so this is the thing. We're not experts, and then we talk. We always, like, you know, people
teasing.
people always say to us, like,
Catman.
You guys are
something. Cat something will coming. And not August. Yeah.
So
Oh,
we
boy.
always say too much. That's the criticism that we always get. So,
oh, you know what? I do have a question about like Druid animal forms a little bit here. So, obviously, like through content that people have made and stuff, you've seen like there's a lot of like movement tech, right? Like there's like the cat dash into the chicken jump and all that, and then there's like the rat being able to like jump through windows and doors. There's a lot of like back and forth in the community about whether or not that's intended. Are those things that people are able to do with the Druid form shifting? Is that stuff that you want to have happen?
되게 멋있게 어려운 것들 있잖아요. 그거를 원래 의도인지.
네, 의도했고 그래서 그 딜레이를 안 넣고 있는
Yeah.
그
So,
쉐입 때.
yeah.
그래서 그렇게는 안 하고 근데 이제 너무 투어치하게 좀 이동한 것도 있어서 그거 좀 조정을 할 거야.
Yeah. So, that was made intentionally, right? So I know there's a lot of, you know, people. It's kind of crazy. We do, you know, but at the same time that was intentional because. So first of all, I was like when designing, you know, these kind of abilities and stuff, it starts with like that kind of what's that kind of fantasy fulfillment, right? And it's like, hey, Druid is like the shapeshifter kind of, but it doesn't just start at just shapeshifting. Like there was this clip. Did you guys watch the new Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out last year? Right?
Yes.
And then there's the druid there, right? And then she starts as a fly. Like the intro scene where they introduce her, she's like this fly, and then she shapeshifts into this rat, and then she turns into the human. She is escaping as a rat. She turns you know.
Right.
And so like SDF was like, hey, he actually got that clip. Is like, this is this is one of the fantasies of like Druid shapeshifting is like that kind of whole scene, right? And it's like we got to make for the animators. This is that kind of fantasy fulfillment that we want to instill, right? And so I think that was really good reference material, and then that's kind of the feel that we accomplished, right? And so when people are coming, it's like, oh, remove the instantaneous shapeshift, is like that actually is counter to the initial vision of the shapeshift from that we started with, right?
Mhm.
And so that's why we haven't done that. When people come with that, it's like, okay, but we do agree that maybe there's a bit too much. It went a little too extreme with some of the movement stuff, so we might have to rein that in. But it's like we don't want to nerf it where that gets lost. That kind of feeling of when you're playing Druid in the past. It's on your imagination, and you're doing these kind of cool things. That's we still want Druid to feel like you're this awesome, like adapting to all these kind of situations, and move that kind of movement tech in the game adds more of that skill gap too, right? So, but it was intended from the very beginning. It's kind of. It actually met. It's one of those rare cases where the actual execution closely mirrored what we wanted it to feel like, and it's doing. But yeah, we do understand that. Hey, yeah, it might be a little bit too extreme right now, but it's fun, So
Sure.
as long as it's not not game breaking right now, it's like, okay, we want people to be able to have fun with that kind of new experience, right? So
yeah. Do you want to bother with a balance question about like the cleric bard combo stuff? Because we kind of talked about that like early on, but I don't know if you guys want to bother talking about balance right now.
Yeah, it's like yeah, balance. Yeah, so the thing is, balance stuff. Again, I feel like, okay, we have the soup. We're gonna let the master chef cook a little bit.
Yeah.
But balance right now is like we want to work on the other more pressing issues, right? Like
Sure.
I think and that I think art is gonna impact balance, how people feel about balance too. I think the big in the backlog of tasks is getting that new matchmaking out, right? It's like we feel like it's gonna improve the experience, like with teaming, with the gear gap, with players, I guess what is it, skill gap.
Yeah.
We have a lot more knobs and stuff and then like cheaters too, or suspected cheaters, like
Sure.
isolating them away and stuff like that. So that's why that's a really high priority, right? And it affects onboarding too, right? So
Yeah.
let's to work on some of those big knobs first. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I've got like a whole section on like quality of life kind of things, and then like just random questions that people have been asking.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one is kind of a tongue-in-cheek question: is why do the skeletons bleed?
I think with skeleton keys.
Yeah. Why? Yeah. Why?
So it was a resource issue, right? Like we yeah. And now we leave it in because it's kind of just for fun, and it's like our legacy. And then and all the new people that come in, and it's like why is the skeleton bleed? And for us, we that's our inside joke now. It's like they don't bleed anywhere else. It's a dark and darker day. Right?
Yeah. So, that was like the entire Games Fest chat was like, why is it bleeding? It was awesome.
We don't care anymore. It looks that's just dark and dark.
Yeah. Is it possible for the game client to have VoIP enabled by default and then have people turn it off? Because most people, especially like newer players, they don't even know that like their like VoIP is an option. And a lot of like the veteran guys try to talk to them and they have no idea that they're being talked to.
그런 비용 때문에 그랬던 거는. Honestly.
Okay, we'll be very honest. So we use a third party.
그때도 우리 진짜 돈이 없었어요.
Yeah.
네, 그것도 너무 비싸서.
Okay, so this is something we can reconsider, but the real reason why is because we use a third party solution. It's very expensive to use VoIP, but we know that it has, and but yeah. So this is where the ugly head of reality of the business comes into play.
Yo, I
right?
appreciate the honesty of this answer right now so much. That's amazing.
So we eat a lot of costs on VoIP, and that was why. But the thing is, like, man, there's also a cultural thing too. It's like I think in the West, VoIP is a lot. People use it. Much more frequently. It's like kind of given. Whereas like in the East here, like in Asia, it's like even in the same regional session is you have like multiple languages, right? People.
Sure.
And so VoIP is like, unless we're saying, oh, okay, all Chinese speaker, and even China, you have different, dialects and stuff too. And so, yeah, it's not as much a thing in Asia, right, as like in the West, right? So I think for us, because we're based out here, it's like, oh, we don't see. So there's also a bias too for us. I was like, oh, yeah, none of us are using VoIP, so is it really a necessary feature? And then we have employees here from the West, right, from the US or from different, we have contractors that are helping us out, working with us from like the UK, and they're like, dude, VoIP is like an essential feature, and so there's this kind of learning process too. But
Sure.
a big percentage of it was like, oh, this is very expensive, and like we don't have much. We had when we first introduced VoIP, we had no money. We're like, oh, dude, we want to do this. People are asking for it. It was like the top, requested feature. We had no money. And we're like, okay, can we do it? We'll figure it out somehow, And I was like,
yeah. Would it be possible, would it be possible to do like an emote thing then? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, man. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. No, so I just want again, we come from like this, old school. We played a lot of both of us played a lot of Counter-Strike, like the old, before CS:GO, before Source. We played a lot of, like Counter-Strike beta, right? And so for us, one of the things that we really appreciated in Counter-Strike was the radio commands. Remember, like,
yes,
you would just memorize all those things at like CZ,
1.3 is best.
Yeah, so that's like 1.3. I played even before that, and I quit like before 1.6. But because of this, it's like, oh,
I don't like that jumping slow.
Cal-I in 1.6, baby.
If we start talking about Counter-Strike, then this podcast will never end. So so communication for us is like, because in Asia you have people that are speaking different languages, but we do feel like, oh, being able to communicate with even strangers and other people on your teammates should matter and stuff, right? And so like one of the things is like, okay, well, and how was that? What was the solution a long time ago? Oh yeah, the radio. But the thing we're struggling with is, how do we make it so it doesn't feel like it's out of place in this world setting? Like we don't have walkie-talkies and stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
what if you did something like Dark Souls, where they have those emotes that say like hello and stuff like that? Where you can have them on the emo wheel.
So I think communicating with emotes and stuff, that was already the intention with the emote system right now. But again, business rears its ugly head again. It's like some of that stuff is kind of behind the paywall. We want like this open kind of communication system. I mean,
get voice packs from streamers. Get like Pokelols or something to do it. It'll be great.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that does sound pretty cool. But going back to like the radio command is like, the easy thing for us is we could kind of hand wave a lot of stuff away, which is like, oh, it's magic or something, you know. But we want to maybe that's going to be the actual implementation, but you know, we want to kind of think about other ways of implementing it, right? So but it's on lower on the priority list, right? And then we do have VoIP, right? So
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Next question from Reddit was underused perks and spells. Like Warlock Darkbeam, Dark Offering, Lore Mastery for Bard, Arcane Feedback on Wizard, Holy Water for Cleric, Campfire Master and Ranger. Like, you know, those kinds of like underused like spells and perks and abilities. Is there any chance of like buffing some of those underused or underutilized perks and abilities and stuff?
The chef right now is shaking
his head like, I don't want to deal with this shit.
No. He's like,
oh, he's shaking his head. Yes. All right. Let's go.
Yeah.
No time from that.
But right now is no time. So again, the priority lists are shifting around, right? That's the thing. But of course, he wants to start re-adding a little bit of, you know, the extra spices and peppers and stuff, and that has to do with the skills and perks too.
Okay.
So,
all right. Let's see. There's a lot of people that talk about like Bard, for instance, especially that they don't have a whole lot of build variants. Like the only way to play Bard really is to do like the 10 song style of build play, because they don't really have like a lot of build variants. Like I would say Bards, while I believe they're like the most threatening class in the entire game right now when they're built well and played well, especially, they're really only done it like one way. Is there any plan on like making some more variants for that class, or like Barbarian, kind of like in the same boat?
되게 좋은 지적이에요. 그러니까 전부 다 할 수 있는 클래스인데 그냥 빌리가 하나밖에 없어요. 그래서 우리가 좀
not so much in like more songs, but like different styles of gameplay. Like
I know that.
So he understands that challenge with it. So it's like, hey, it's a high skill class that has a lot of adaptability, but there's only one way to play, and so
that's the problem.
So he does look at it as a problem. Again, it comes back to prioritizing what he wants to work on, and then the other thing that, you know, is the reason he wants to focus on getting the arena out too is like, I think like having the kind of pure PvP that gives additional data, you know, so that's why he wants to get that out there, and then we have, you know, we could collect data on like what are the builds that work on PvP, and then that's kind of where his interest lies, right? So.
Okay. Next question. This was actually asked like way more than I thought it was going to be. I saw this like 5 or 6 different times in the same Reddit thread. Crystal Sword kind of sucks right now. Most people don't run it. There was an interesting suggestion that people made where like if you struck with the Crystal Sword, have it refund like a little bit of like spell memory, like a spell charge, which I thought was kind of an interesting idea as a utility.
He just said that's a good idea. So he's like, oh, that's a good idea.
So actually, I started to develop a new full animation thing.
Yeah. So the other thing, you know, that we
full new animation,
like think the weapons that suck. The other way that we kind of rebalance it is like improving the animation. So there's a new animation that's been in the works for a while right now. Not for a while, but like this season that we started working on. And then there's going to be a new craftable one. That's not a solution, but like I looked at the original stats that are using. I was like, this is like we're gonna have Crystal Sword meta for a while, baby. So I was like.
Yeah.
Hey,
Wait, is that the one that's the one that was data mined? I assume we know the name of it, but do you want me to like not?
I saw your video about that. So that, you know,
we obviously don't know what makes it, but
yeah, it's gonna be tough, but
okay.
Yeah. So a lot of that stuff that's data mined is pretty accurate. You guys are you guys.
Well, the only thing that we ever see is like models, unless you guys have the stats like in the files. So.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the other ones, like quality of life thing that somebody asked about was the ability to toggle crouch instead of having to hold the key, because you got gamers with arthritis in their hands and sometimes it's hard for them to just constantly hold control down or whatever the crouch key is.
턱을 그거 필요하다. 그러니까 이 뭐죠? 아르트라이티스 있는 사람들이 너무 힘들다.
We know that.
Okay. You want to?
Just time issue.
Yeah, it's a time issue.
Yeah.
We don't have a guy that's dedicated right now to controls game. We're
Sure.
looking into that because, yeah, you know, like quality of life stuff, especially now with like new people coming on and onboarding, you know, and now we're at a way that we're at the minimum, you know, we're feeling like, oh, we crossed that minimum bar. It's like, okay, we could start getting a little bit more bandwidth to think about and then assign people to do work on these kind of things.
Okay.
So,
people have been asking about an auto sort feature for inventory stuff.
yeah, auto sort too. Inventory as well.
너무 하고 싶죠.
Yeah, he just, if you saw his expression right now, it's like he did the, oh my god. This is like
refactoring is finished.
yeah. Again, this goes back. So he said
Another
it
one for
goes
the
back
list.
to refactoring. It has to complete.
Oh yeah.
before we
Okay.
can-
Inventory refactoring. Sure. Okay. Another one that I wrote this a long time ago. I want to say like back in June. The idea of having like an eventized thing, like a community, like a pooled goal event where like the whole community has to collect 200,000 items of a particular item for an event that happens, or 20,000 ward weed or something with an end game like goal, or like staged goals where like if you hit phase 1, 2, and 3 or whatever in a certain period of time, you get like unlocks. Have you ever thought about like looking into something like that, or like as a like not like a daily quest system, but as like a bigger goal?
Okay. So we have idea or the designs for systems like where it's not even like community. Okay, so this is a hint, but it's very likely if you ask STF, he would say it's coming out this season. I would say it's coming out next season.
Okay.
Which is kind of similar to what you're talking about. It's called, but we're gonna we want to introduce like the different religions into the game.
Oh,
And then,
okay.
yeah. And
Interesting.
You could,
religion system.
yeah, and you could join a different sect and stuff, and
Cool.
you could donate, and just let your imagination.
So
It's gonna be very
faction systems. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool.
But-
Okay. Would it be possible to have the starting potions, bandages, campfire, that kind of stuff? Would it be possible to have that stuff by default on a character creation from the Squire? Because what we've noticed is like brand new players don't know enough to go to the Squire and like equip that stuff on their belt.
This was another thing that yesterday's lunch. This is our hot topic. We're like, man, our onboarding experience right now really sucked because
Yeah, I have a segue into that too. Yeah.
yeah. And the thing is, so we're leveraged because again, we don't have the capacity onboarded yet to like these things. Honestly speaking, is like once a junior guy knows our system and how it's built, and now and hopefully knows enough where he doesn't take or he or she doesn't break the entire system, right? It's like, oh, this could be like an actual perfect task to give to them. So I think we're getting close to training people to that stage, right? So but yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's legacy stuff. So the thing is, in the meantime, we're trying to do things where we're just leveraging old systems. It's kind of like we're hacking the old system. So like you'll see, like we try to give double the band-aids. We try to give like some of the starting items, right? So like Ranger now restarts with a campfire. But there's when we first built the system, it was like, oh hey, 8 starting items. That's enough for everything. We know. So we're hitting like those kind of limits of like the original systems, right? Again, if modifying this is not a lot of work, but it's just getting to the point where we have enough trust and stuff with our team now and getting them. And so I think you see we're getting closer there where we're going to kind of overcome that crest. And then once we can start leveraging the new hires
Yeah.
is that we'll be able to do some of these kind of their high impact, low effort, but we're just so resource constrained, and our processes aren't in line right now, and so these are things that we've been investing in. So just give us a little bit of time. So that was the other thing is like, we're talking about religion system, we're talking about the different social spaces and stuff like that. But please understand, like, I have to go back into like, manage expectation management mode, right?
Mhm.
This is the most important thing that I've learned the last like 4 or 5 months is like, okay, is I don't want to over deliver on, on promises right now is, if you look at on our Steam page is these are stuff that we're working on for version to get to version 1.0. And
Right.
if you look our timeline, and maybe we're even a little too aggressive on that, is we're expecting to hit version 1.0 like next year, So
Right.
these are things that are going to be slowly rolled out one by one, So
Yeah. So my suggestion would have been maybe working on a new player series that you guys have on your own YouTube channel for new players, and then you could embed that in the game. When you get there, you could have those videos like embedded in the game just through a menu system that people could go through as a tutorial piece.
Again, that kind of stuff is stuff that we would love to have done, and we're slowly ramping up the new people that are on board. Those are perfect tasks for those guys to do that have limited, if something goes wrong, hopefully it doesn't break the entire game kind of thing. So
yeah, and you could leverage Ryan, you can leverage me, you can leverage a bunch of people for that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So
okay. One of the suggestions I thought was kind of funny. Could the spell book get a melee swing on left click? Because somebody wanted to hit somebody in the face with the binding, or like a two-handed swing and like clap them across the face with the book.
스펠북 있잖아요. 갖고 싶으네요.
I wanted to. I already made it.
I love this. I love that STF already did this.
I already tried it, and it was work. So fun.
할까요?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Considering.
He's considering it. So
I just want to hit somebody with a textbook. I think that would be hilarious.
Okay.
Okay. I only got a few left. One, item set pieces with set perks possibly in the future.
Well, so that was always a thing that we as is probably super obvious, is like one of the inspirations is Diablo, like, and the original, like Diablo 1, Diablo 2, right? Like not the newer ones. But again, so those are things that we always wanted to do, but as we're building we're building the car as it's going down the highway. I was like, oh, okay. And then, one of the wheels is starting to fall off, so we have to start so it goes back to our message of, okay, at least on the dungeon side right now, the game is, these are all stuff that we think is going to be super cool to add, but because we want to build out the greater experience, we're going to kind of step away a little bit from these kind of system stuff on the dungeon side, let the content team kind of pick up the slack there for a little bit while we work on these big systems. And then once we have these kind of, other spaces that people so our thinking is going into the dungeons is, especially our game, is pretty stressful, right? And it's like, you need an area where you can kind of, deleverage that kind of stress, right? So we have that marketplace, where people are into the trading and stuff. Like that was part of the reason we added that. But it's like not everyone wants to play, like stock market tycoon or whatever, right? And so we need other spaces. So I think these are all things that we 100% agree are things that's going to add value to the game itself, but it's just focusing where our priorities are right now, right? So
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
he talks about that like once every month, you know. It's like, hey, we got to do this and stuff. Hey, we don't.
Okay.
Even our current modifier system, we have issues here and stuff, or you know, like let's get all this down, you know, first, right?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. In regard to like movement mechanics, bunny hopping. So casters and bow users, when they move at full momentum, they do like bunny hops to be able to maintain their momentum while they're like winding up cast or like winding up their bow. Is that intended to be able to get like that extra hop in if they can time it well? And one of the ways that they try to get around this is they bind jump to like mouse wheel, and then they just spin their mouse wheel like while they're moving in one direction so that they make sure that they hit that second hop.
그건 원래 하고 싶은 건데.
Yeah, I'm trying to nerf the shit out of Soapy right now is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. So it wasn't that one wasn't intended, but then the thing is, you know, again, like we played, a bunch of Counter-Strike, so yeah.
사운드가 줄어들지만 않으면 뭐 그렇게 하는 말들은 상관없어요.
So yeah, he's saying if there's not like a sound advantage with that, then he's okay with it. So
yeah, I mean, I don't really think it harms anything with the way that the game is played. I mean, casters are pretty damn squishy. If they get caught, they're caught. You know, unless you're a warlock. Yeah. But you know, we're not nerfing warlocks anymore. They've had enough. Sorry, Chan. No, I mean, like whatever balance changes they make. It's not a big deal. Okay. Solo, duo, trio. A while back, we're going back in time again. There was once upon a time there was mention of modifying the final bosses of Inferno to scale based on size of party. Is that still something that you guys are planning on doing?
No, I don't know.
and honestly, like people that know how to do the fights with the like.
Yeah, we don't actually. Yeah, we don't have that on our task list. So yeah, yeah, that would be something totally new that we would have to think about. So
okay,
I would say we have other stuff that we're going to try to address for those kind of balances. Let's see the results of that first, and then we'll think about that.
The only boss that you really can't beat solo, I mean, it's doable, but it's not easy. It's actually really difficult. The only one that you can't beat solo is Warlord. The other two aren't that bad. Warlord's mechanics, though, with the way that he's played, is kind of tough to do on your own, unless like bards typically are the ones that can pull it off just because they have so much damage spike. But the other two really aren't that hard.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, like the in-game dungeon stuff is, our confidence in our team right there is we're gonna be like, hey, on the monsters, on the dungeon stuff, improve it. That's our directive to them. So we have a lot of trust in them now. So.
Okay. Last one I have. Warlock Evil Eye win.
Evil Eye 언제?
그거는 처음에도 얘기했지만
yeah. I asked him the same question last week directly. Right? Yeah.
그래도 다 연결돼 있어요. 우리가 몬스터로 게임 플레이 할 수 있는 타이밍 올 때 맞춰서 연구할 거야. 그 시스템이 같이 연결돼 있어서 포제스트 레버.
Yeah. So it's the unfortunate thing is it's not going to be soon, okay?
Okay.
Because so the way it was originally implemented was kind of we hacked it in, right? And then that caused issues. But the reason why we wanted to put that in is, and we've mentioned this numerous times, right? But again, this is like a very, very dream reach goal, but this is something that we feel, we very, very strongly about implementing eventually. It's like, is we want people to be able to play as like a monster, right? And so now that the Evil Eye was kind of the original implementation was like that, the hacked way. It was like, oh, okay, that's, we kind of messed it up. Let's do it properly, but we want to invest from the ground up making that system. So just like the shape shifting, before we did Druids, people always say, oh, okay. So like the ideas and stuff for Druids, that was easy. And like we could have just, if we kind of hacked it in, we could have probably done that in like, a month or so, right? But then there's going to be all these issues that are coming up. And so we did it, step by step. That's why it was critical for us to get the demon shift in for Warlock first. And then, because that's easier, it's like, oh, a humanoid shape turning into another humanoid shape, right? And we want to make sure, like, hey, okay, all our combat systems replicate properly and stuff, right? Before we start going onto the challenges of all these different kind of different shapes and sizes and orientations and stuff. And so this is a similar thing that we're going to have to struggle with once we do like possessing and playing as monsters, right, in our game. And so Evil Eye, unfortunately, it's going to take a long time. So sorry, Warlocks. Okay. Yeah,
that's all right. We'll all cope. We'll all cope together.
Yeah.
All right. I think that kind of covers everything that I had. I don't know if Chad has anything interesting. They're asking about dwarf skins.
Someday.
Someday. Yeah. Let's see. Rare mob portal spawns like golden goblins, asks Vincent.
Oh yeah. I mean, man, we wanted to do like the loot goblin.
Yeah, like a loot goblin.
Long time ago. But again, like the wheels started falling off the car, and I was like, okay, loot goblin, you're gonna be coming in way later, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, guys, I'm not going to be asking about like paladin and monk when they haven't even got through the sorcerer yet. Y'all are just going to have to wait.
그 루트 거블린 있잖아요. 우리가 하고 싶은 거, 그 때리고 루트 나오고 이거 엄청 하고 싶었잖아요 옛날에.
Well, I have no idea with that for now.
Yeah, for
I
now.
just talking about that. Let me know. Let me explain. I want to make a unique monster.
Oh yeah. Okay. So the one other thing that we're working on,
It will be starting with the goblin.
yeah, is unique named monsters that you could randomly,
That would be sweet.
So we've already started a lot of the groundwork for that. And so that's why he's comfortable talking about it now, right? Like the loot stuff, we actually had, if you go into our design space, we have the design work for that like 2 years ago, but it never came out. And now we're like, maybe it won't come out. We don't know yet, right? So but like the unique monster, like the unique goblin, unique skeletons, whatever. Like now we feel comfortable that it's gonna come out. It's just a matter of time. So that's why he was, Luke Goblin. That's a very big question mark right now. But unique goblin, that's not a
goblin.
Yeah.
Unique goblin 될 수도 있죠.
Yeah.
Root goblin.
So
Okay. Let's see. I think that's pretty much everything. I don't know if people are asking about PvE only mode, but I don't know if that's on your horizon anytime soon.
No, yeah, not right. So again, that's if we wanted to do that, just the way it's structured fundamentally, the game itself.
그냥 다른 게임.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It's basically making another game for us. Yeah.
Oh, I did have one other one. I did have one other question that was actually on my list that I skipped over on accident. Previous season rewards. So like season 1, season 2 rewards. or like the skin from the prior quest. And I think I asked SDF this question like the first week of the last week of last season, something like that. Is there going to be an opportunity for people to be able to obtain any of like the old skins or old cosmetic stuff from like prior seasons, like a season removed or 2 seasons removed, something like that, in like the shop or one of those ideas?
Yeah.
어드벤처 랭크 아이템은 그러니까 코스메틱은 살 수 없어요. 그거는 익스클루시브한 거고. 근데 퀘스트, 시즌 퀘스트 거는 이제 못하는 사람들 위해서 시즌 2번 지나가면 판매하는 거예요. But with redstone maybe.
Yeah. So the stuff that you get from the Adventure Rank season is we want to have that be exclusive to the Adventure Rank seasons, right?
Okay.
So what this means is again, this is our thinking right now, is that the only way to earn this is through the Adventure Ranks. That system itself. So it doesn't mean we have to do alignment. Like he wants it, so once it's done, it's never going to come back. For me, it's like, oh, maybe it could come back, but then you'd still have to go through that Adventure Ranks system, and there'll be an exclusive period. But more likely, it's going to be the way that SDF wants it. Is like, okay, you earn it, that Adventure Rank system, and you got it, and then there's no more chance, right? So for me, it's like, oh, I'm not a big proponent. And we have some kind of agreement here too. Is like that FOMO. It's like we don't want to leverage using FOMO as the way to get people, making people buy it. But we do understand that is a big marketing tool to, So I think it's going to be like finding that right balance and then doing the right messaging. It's like, okay, you miss it here, but yeah. But then again, it's weird, but we're saying we don't like it. But then at the same time, it's like these kind of systems are inherently like leveraging that kind of aspect of it, right? But so at the end of last season, like just out of a whim, we were like, hey, let's make cosmetics that you could earn through the quests, right? There was like a season ending quest. It was like, collect 100 ales or collect 100 goblin ears or whatever, and you unlock some cosmetics there, right? So those ones we want to eventually introduce into the common pool, right? It's like, oh, so it's basically like, hey, if you do the quest, you get it for free. If you didn't do the quest, you could just buy it later on, right? But then give it a little bit of exclusive period, but then eventually it's going to come out. So like, I think it was like so that's the current structure that we have in our head right now.
Players complaining with the race because there has a specific stats.
Yeah. So again, these are things that like we have to think about. I was like, okay,
I can understand why.
And yeah, he's saying is like he understands why like locking things, especially races that have like specific stats and stuff is.
그거 좀 생각해보면 아니면 스탯이 없애버렸지.
Yeah. So like, and we've had this kind of talk internally too. It's like, okay, what if we just get rid of the stats and make it fully cosmetic? So our whole thing is we're really sensitive to that talk about pay to win, right? And it's like,
yeah.
The stat, if we remove the stats, there's no drop.
Yeah. So his thing is, if we remove stats, then that severely reduces the chance of us introducing dwarves, right? And he really wants to add dwarves. I do too, right? So it's like, because
the size of the skin would mean everything then.
Yes, that's the problem.
Yeah. So these are things.
There should be stats.
And so it's that fine line of like, oh, okay, what goes into pay to win, and and then if we make it so it's like too far into like pay to lose or something, then it's
I like it. Pay to lose.
Pay to lose.
Fishman.
Yeah, so this is stuff that we have to kind of explore together. I feel like, and we're gonna piss off a lot of people, and then we're gonna say sorry and try to adjust and figure out like, okay, what's acceptable for people. So.
Okay. I think the last like little suggestion that somebody just made was the ability to bulk buy like gold bags, like the little ones.
Yeah. we want to do that so badly. we again, there's legacy things that we have to work around with this. So it looks very, very simple. Like we, okay, pull back. Go. So even even yesterday. So I actually tried to hack this using just the tables and stuff like last month. I was getting pissed off too. I was like, oh my God, I'm running out of gold, I have to go. And then you get error 10 or whatever. And you're like, oh, what? So I was like, okay, I'm going to try. And it was a much deeper rooted issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're watching the streams of the new people encountering the exact same stuff. And we're like, even yesterday, he was like, oh. So he rounded up like one of our junior programmer guys, our UI guy. He's like, dude, I can't, what is it? Watch this anymore. He's like, okay, we have to, at least this one, even though it's like, taking the steering wheel from who's driving right now. It's like, let's try to figure this out. Yeah. So I don't have a good answer because we have to investigate into like how much it has to change and stuff. But it's just as frustrating for us too. So.
Okay. All right. So soon, but not super soon, I guess.
So again, it depends on the investigation. It's like if our junior guy can handle it, and then we feel like, oh, it's not gonna bring down the destruction of the game while adding this, then let's do it.
Okay. I guess we'll all pray together for it. Hope that we get it relatively soon.
Yeah, we're praying too. The both of us here is like we're hands clasped. Please, this works out. Yeah.
All right. Well, I have held you guys here for like the last 2 hours, so thank you for taking all the time to answer all of our questions and everything. Thanks for talking to us about the game, and yeah, we obviously all love Dark and Darker, which is why we're all here talking about it. So
much. Yeah, thank you.
So another thing in the in that kind of same bucket with the gold thing, and we actually wanted to try to get this out earlier, but we failed. Is like the account wide quests.
Yes.
So that's another big thing. Like we play the game too, and it's like
on the next season.
So yeah, that one is actually pretty high priority because like we're doing the quests and we'll come in. And like at least one person each week is like, oh, I want to start this new character, but yeah. So
are you planning on making the vendor cooldowns like account wide then? For rep?
Again, this is the stuff that we have to like look into all the little side effects and stuff, right? So now we feel a little bit more confident that we have guys that we could assign this task. Otherwise, it has to be STF and I in the past that had to do all of this, right?
Yeah.
That's why all of these things get stuck in the backlog. It's like, oh, okay, we want to do this, but then there's all these. So
they want to just
even if it became just account-wide affinity, it doesn't necessarily have to be the rewards themselves. I think it's more that people just want to be able to like make a base kit with their
actually a good idea.
Their character.
Okay. That actually makes things a lot easier, right? Okay, we're gonna thank you.
Right, like correct me if I'm wrong, Chad. I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, obviously, but I mean, it seems like that's like the biggest issue is like wanting to have your base kit be a little bit beefier, you know?
More easier way.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like Chad's all saying yeah. So yeah, if it could be account-wide affinity, because that way you're not having to like redo everything. Because the only other way to do it would be to make it so that the all the quests counted for the whole account, which. You know, the moment you made an alt, that means that you could make another Grim Smile craft, like right off the rip, which would break a lot of stuff.
Okay, great idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
okay.
Yeah, we have to think about the different kind of side effects of that, but I think that is actually a lot easier. Just kind of thinking about our structure. So, yeah.
Okay. Cool. I think that hold on, there might have been one other thing. Any chance of getting like an in-game quest log, like while you're in the run that you could check, like in your inventory?
The very early version at these topics. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're gonna work on a very so again, we wanted to have that originally, and then we realized like that if we wanted to get everything working perfectly, if one of us had to design that, and then this was something that we had to do when we were trying to get the free to play implemented and all that stuff. So in the end, we were like, okay, well, let's just get the meta game version, the one on the lobby in first, just to have the accept all, and then you could at least you don't need to click one by one, right? It's better than nothing. So that's what we worked on. So the original intention was to do a full-fledged working. But having us work on that design that is like that's too much, we have to focus on a lot of other stuff. Again, we're slowly building out, the people that are onboarding, and so this is one of the tasks. You'll see so we call it internally. It's actually the version that's out right now. It's called quest log version 0.1, and then all our Jira tasks and stuff, it was like implement quest log 0.1. So I think this next hotfix you'll see 0.2. Okay. So
all right, cool.
It's
Also the Bard band.
what is Bard built?
They don't do
I think they're talking about like wanting to have like some quality of life improvement for their instruments. And then without realizing that they have the most like viable, strongest class in the entire game. Stop bitching, bards. Get over it.
Is it Yami? No.
Shut up, Yami! Well, go hit somebody with a loot and normals, you bitch. No, I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding.
It's fine on Bard. So fun.
Okay. I feel bad too because I forgot that Spud and what is it is on the darkest hour right now, and we just looked over. It was like, dude, he did the full on the Rebel Assault.
Oh, dude, he always has something. Fucking Spud's
And
hilarious.
that's awesome. So yeah.
All right, boys. Thank you so much for the time you spent. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we gotta hit lunch. So
yeah, well, it's like 11:15 p.m. I need to go to bed. I'm old.
Yeah, thank you for staying up late for us too. So,
yeah. Thank you for the time, fellas. We'll see you in the next one.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Later.
Thank you. Goodbye.
See you again.
All right. Good night.